Welcome into Boxing Scene Today. We're in the ProBox TV studios to discuss what is hot in boxing news. It is Jimmy Smith alongside the champs, Chris Algieri and Paulie Malignaggi. So what do we have? We have a fight coming up in Times Square, New York City. It has some of the biggest names in boxing. The only problem is that we're going to discuss is they're not fighting other stars. It seems like a placeholder kind of event. Chris, I got to start with you. By the way, I'm with two native New Yorkers here, so I'm going to talk about it all the way through. Teofimo Lopez, Devin Haney, Ryan Garcia, pretty much can't miss. When I read who they were fighting, I went, okay. It just took a lot of luster. We have the stars. They're not fighting other stars.
Yeah, well, yeah, we want them all to be fighting each other. And I think that's the idea. This is like the pre-show to putting these guys and making them all
what could go
fight
wrong?
each other.
What could possibly go wrong?
Welcome to the theater of the unexpected, guys. This is boxing. And I similar to what you were saying, Jimmy, when I first saw this layout, I was like, wow, these press conferences are going to be great. These fights, not so great. But I think it'll be fun in the lead up. And I think that the promise in the future that these fights are going to happen, and if you can promise anything in boxing, you've got Teofimo Lopez who's fighting Barbosa, which is a fight that's been in the making for a long time. It's not super enticing because Barbosa is not really a dynamic guy who steals the show in any way, especially at press conferences in terms of the way he talks. He had a good win over J.C. Ramirez, who is fighting Haney, which he looked a little worn in that fight, so I don't know how much desire there is for that matchup.
That's the Haney special, though. He just fights shot.
Listen, it's a comeback after a long time off. Yeah. The last fight was the Haney.
I'd give him the benefit of the doubt if he didn't build a career on it, though.
But I'm not knocking any of these fighters. They're getting the bag, and they got a great opportunity to fight in Times Square. And then last we got Ryan, who's making his return off of the PED suspension, and he's fighting Rolly Romero, who is a good talker and a good mouthpiece. Although they've both been pretty quiet during the first couple press conferences, but that fight's explosive. It's fun, but is Rolly really on Ryan's level? I don't think so.
I think it's a size.
Certainly not his size.
His size is the issue to me.
There's an interesting clip of sparring with them on YouTube, but they were
from 20 years ago.
And then they were more the same
good,
size.
Yeah.
Ryan seems to be a lot.
But Ryan
bigger.
was actually smaller than him then. Ryan was a smaller man in that video. Now Ryan is considerably bigger.
Yeah. I mean, with Ryan having failed PED tests and also, going forward, there's always going to be that question. And also he's constantly moving up in weight or constantly offering to fight at all kinds of weight classes. That kind of suspicion is always going to swirl around. So, Rolly at its best was 135, maybe 140. Right?
Stopped twice.
Yeah.
Recent
so
years.
here's my take on it, right? I like that Barbosa's getting a shot.
Yeah.
I do think he deserves it. He's been kind of waiting in the
He's
wings
earned
for a while, and he's earned it. Teofimo is interesting because he sort of made himself the biggest villain in the sport lately, and he's sort of playing on that role, and I think that can generate attention.
But he's also phenomenal.
He's also phenomenal.
He's on.
But he tends to fight at the level of his opposition. But I think, listen, if he's not on, Barbosa is sneak good.
Yeah.
Barbosa's one of those guys. He doesn't just wow you with anything, but he just keeps winning. Yeah. So he may sneak up on you and beat you again here, and then all of a sudden take that star power. When it comes to a free card, I think this is sort of what you do. You sort of set the chips where they need to be stacked. And if you get the results you want, maybe then you make this a pay card later on in an arena where it's going to generate more. I don't mind the whole free thing. I think it's going to cause chaos on Friday rush hour in New York, of course, but
I don't know how logistically that's going to work at all.
Logistically,
that was my second question.
That's for them to figure out. That's not for us to really critique or figure out, whatever, but
I can figure it out while I'm watching from afar.
That's what I'm saying. The intrigue is the event itself, right? Yeah. It's a free show. There are names there that people can recognize nonetheless, especially Ryan. I mean, listen, you're in the middle of Manhattan. Manhattan is not where New Yorkers usually live unless they're super rich. Typically, Manhattan is full of transplants that are there working, and they're not New Yorkers. Even back in the day when people in New York spoke like me, when they had my accent, well, now, even that accent's gone in the boroughs, but even back then, Manhattan didn't really have that in the center part, at least like that. You know what I'm saying? So, you went to Times Square. It was typically, I remember going to Times Square one day. I cut out of school when I was in high school, and I was with some friends, and I can remember hanging out the day there, and later in the day, there was TRL Live. Remember TRL Live?
TRL Live.
And there were all people outside. Nobody was from New York. You could see those people showed up from everywhere but New York. You know what I mean? People from Brooklyn didn't go to
Square now is
didn't
a
go to
giant
TRL.
Apple. It's a giant Apple.
Yeah. So why am I saying this? Because I think that's like the prime real estate for Ryan Garcia fans. You know, like you'll go there. It's, you know, a young crowd, typically not an urban crowd. Like they're the YouTube teeny bopper, so to speak. And Ryan has that sort of allure to him. You know, even outside of boxing, let alone that he is a fighter. I think this benefits Ryan more than anything else. You know, with Haney, you're curious about how he comes back. I think he was done wrong in the Garcia fight,
so
and he's tied to Ryan.
Fans
put
know
it together
who he is as well.
And you can give him a pass for fighting a guy who's faded, because we saw Barboza, you know, kind of wash Ramirez in the last fight, right? So you could see that Ramirez doesn't have much left. And even though Haney has made an entire career out of fighting shot former champions, I think you can give him a pass here just because, you know, I think he was done wrong in the Garcia fight. My problem is he going to keep doing it again and again and again like he's done his whole career? That's my only issue there. Because when he fought a hungry fighter in Ryan, even though there is a PED, he looked a little bit outgunned there. And I want to see Haney with young, hungry fighters. I don't want to see where he goes there coming off of this, because I think he beats Barboza, and I think you can sort of create some dynamic stuff here. Beats Ramirez, sorry. You can create that because, you know, if Barboza beats Teofimo, for example, now you get Barboza in the conversation with either of those guys. Or you may create the dynamic for Ryan and Haney too, you know, under the right circumstances. Teofimo wins and may say something crazy controversial again after the fight, and who knows? Maybe there's something pops off there, you know? So,
but also, I mean, even
I think this is setting the table, essentially.
Even Haney Ramirez is not a foregone conclusion. Ramirez has a killer left hook. Yep. And we saw Devin Haney has a problem with left hooks. You know, we saw that in the Ryan Garcia fight. We also don't know what kind of mindset Devin Haney is going to be coming into this fight. First fight back, you're fighting a guy like Ramirez, who at one time was a really dangerous guy at one point.
I mean, he should be pissed. I mean, he coming back from, you know,
Ramirez?
I mean, no, Haney. You know, I mean, Ramirez, you would figure, you know, how much killer instinct is left in a guy who may be a little shop worn. That's typically what you lose when you're a little shop worn.
Why would
Haney should be
pissed?
pissed because he's, you know, I think people unfairly criticized him a lot for the Garcia fight.
Trashed.
He got trashed.
Got up
against the guy, and lost against the guy who
in a close fight. People forget that fight was close.
Yes.
Not only was it close, the guy still failed a PD test, dude. Like, what are you criticizing?
Also, we keep forgetting he didn't make weight. 3.5 pounds.
He didn't make weight. So, and then try to blame on everybody but himself, mind you. You know, so I think there's, you know, if you're Haney, I think there should be a chip on your shoulder to want to prove something here. You know, and if he doesn't have that, if he doesn't show up with that kind of mean streak, if he doesn't show up with that kind of intent, I'm telling you, that the whole growing up as a rich kid thing could be the reason. I mean, because I think when you've been done wrong and you've had a tough life, like, dude, you're coming back vicious. Like,
have you watched these press conferences?
I didn't know.
They're all subdued. Every fighter on there. They're all. I was expecting fireworks. Maybe I know the first one's a little bit slow. I was thinking.
I mean, wittiness is also.
The second one was going to be better.
Wittiness is also, you can't teach that. It's natural.
No, but Rollies is the best worst trash talker ever.
Yeah.
He's been mum. Yeah. Ryan is, you know, he can be good, especially
maybe Rolly's taking a different approach. He's trying to sucker you in and make you underestimate him.
Nothing really.
Ryan's a horrible trash
Devin's
talker.
not a talker. You know, usually it's his dad who does trash talking. Teofimo's trying, but he's not getting much back. He's, you know, Barbosa's not really a talker. You know, so it really has fallen.
But I
short.
think this is a card to set the table. If I can give you my
honest
short, I think it's a card that sets the table. I think it can set the table, and I think it's more so the event. Listen, look at the weekend it's on. You got this New York card Friday. You got the Canelo fight in Riyadh on Saturday, and then you got Inoue in Vegas on Sunday. So it is also a blockbuster.
We got Canelo and Inoue swapping sides of the world.
Yeah.
Love it.
You got Canelo going to Saudi. You got Inoue coming to America.
Weekend. It's a blockbuster weekend for boxing. And I think this sets the table both for future events with this card and also sets the table for the weekend itself.
But to Jimmy's point, what can go wrong? Setting the table.
But that's their responsibility. Right. You know, we're just looking at the fights. You know, that's whoever's organizing it. Turkey's got to organize it and everything else logistically. Listen, I got questions. On May 2nd, I'll watch it and I'll see what's up. I ain't going to be there, bro. Look, you know what I mean? I ain't going into that mess.
Here's the analogy.
Two New Yorkers are not going to be going.
Right.
But I'll watch it.
Right. But here's the analogy I'm going to go away with. A lot of the bands.
Fight in the afternoon?
It's got to be.
Rush hour?
No, I don't know. On a Friday?
Is there even an undercard or is this straight 3 fights? Because this is the kind of thing you could just do straight 3 fights. You don't need an
right
undercard.
Now on Boxing Record is 3 fights.
Yeah,
that's what I'm looking at right now. It's right in front of me.
What are you gonna do, right? I mean, you just put on the 3 fights and that's
put
it.
on the 3 fights and that's it.
It's free. It's in Times Square.
Yeah,
What were you saying?
the analogy I'm going to use, seriously, is a lot of the bands that I watched as a teenager, a lot of them are still around, right? Guns N' Roses and Tool and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I saw them in
Saw them
98.
live.
I saw them in 96. I'm not buying tickets in 2025 unless I'm sure they can sing.
Yeah.
Get what I'm, people go,
I saw Guns when Slash came back in
Right.
Dodger Stadium in L.A.
Right.
I saw that.
I want to make sure they can sing before
Yeah,
I'm
that's what you
paying
heard about
2025
I heard about
prices.
Motley
Crue.
Yeah.
Same thing. I'm not
What a
playing.
shame.
When I saw them in the 90s, I'm not seeing them now unless
Yeah.
I'm sure they can sing. That's what this fight is. Can these guys still do what they did before? As you said, set the table. Maybe we'll see good things, but I want to make sure they can fight first. And as to Paulie's point, they're going to find out. And to Chris's point, we're going to watch it from home. We suggest you do the same on Boxing Scene Today. As it makes news, it'll make news here. Tune in. Find out why millions are watching.